Your animal is part of your family. But did you prepare for its arrival in a financially responsible way? Hi, I'm AJ Ayers, and I write the Substack, Money Changes Everything. Your pet is making you poor. How to financially prepare for a new family member. Key takeaways. Even a healthy pet costs money, so make sure you have enough money to cover your pet's basics and still be able to fund your own savings goals. Paying a big vet bill is an inevitability of pet ownership, so make sure you plan for it. Read the fine print of your pet insurance plan. Even if you have a plan, you'll still need cash to cover upfront costs. Your animal is part of your family. But did you prepare for its arrival in a financially responsible way? Or did you just make the leap because you wanted to, and you quite literally could not resist the angel that jumped into your arms at the shelter? If you're thinking about getting a pet, start with my advice here. Don't start at the shelter or browse the breeder's website that has a new litter of puppies named after famous scientists, because a little Aussie named Einstein may send you to the state-funded old folks' home if you're not up for a little financial planning first. You don't need to be rich to have a pet. However, you do need to be prepared with more money and time than you think. You're taking on the quiet, ordinary privilege of care. It's a dependent, like a child, except it can't grow up and financially support itself. A pet isn't your emotional crutch or a lifestyle upgrade. It's a financial responsibility that lives and breathes and gets sick exactly when you can't afford it. So before you fall in love, get clear on what you're signing up for and what it actually costs to care for an animal responsibly. Be honest with yourself. Are you ready to care for another being and provide for their needs? Do you have the time, the square footage, and the financial stability to give this cute little being a good life? Are you ready for your Ferragamo loafers to get chewed on? Do the math. Most people adopt emotionally and budget reactively. They underestimate the day-to-day costs and ignore the long-term risks. That is, until the first emergency vet bill shows up and they're blindsided by a completely predictable event. Then you're on GoFundMe asking for help because you didn't plan for something inevitable. If you had to crowdfund your last vet bill and it wasn't a 5-figure freak accident, just a standard $1,000 emergency, you weren't ready for a pet. That doesn't make you evil, but it does mean you skipped a few steps in your thought process for adopting your pet. The harsh reality is that many humans look to animals to save them, to provide companionship in times of loneliness. But what I have often observed is that pets get purchased as a coping mechanism. And when the human's circumstances change, like changing jobs from work from home job to being in the office 4 days a week, the animal's life changes dramatically as well. And now they spend their days in doggy daycare. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure your pup is living its best life with the other dogs. But if your new job can't carry that extra expense and allow you to still do your long-term savings, you simply cannot afford that pup. Again, this doesn't make you evil, but this could mean that you're overwhelmed and maybe a little avoidant. Most people are. But if you can't afford to give an animal consistent, adequate care, if you're gambling on never needing more than a bag of kibble and a few rabies shots, you're not rescuing anything. You're just outsourcing your emotional needs to something that can't consent and can't ask for help when you run out of money. That's not compassion, that's projection. Pets are incredible companions. They lower stress, they bring joy, they make life feel fuller. Many people have pets and not children and are more fulfilled. But you don't get to claim the moral high ground of being a rescuer if your vision of saving an animal means hoping it never needs anything more than unconditional love. If you really love animals, love them enough to wait until your life is stable enough to afford it. You want a pet? Great. Here's how you do it without messing up your own financial well-being. What responsible pet ownership looks like. Build a pet emergency fund before you bring one home. At minimum, set aside $1,000 to $2,000 for unexpected care. That's not the worst case scenario money. That's my dog ate a sock money. And if you already own a pet and don't have this, prioritize it now. It's not an emergency, it's an inevitability. Older pets, certain breeds, and pre-existing conditions, double that emergency fund amount. Set up a high-yield savings account, nickname it something like Sammy's Oh Shit Fund, and automate monthly contributions just like you would your own emergency fund. And if you don't already have one of those with at least 3 months worth of living expenses saved, you're probably not financially ready for a pet. What your pet emergency fund covers: after hours or weekend emergency visits, surgery for whatever, diagnostic tests, x-rays, ultrasounds, blood work, meds, and follow-up appointments, reimbursement lags for pet insurance, more on that in a bit. Understand pet insurance. Pet insurance is not a magic fix. It won't protect you from upfront costs. Most plans work on reimbursement, meaning you still need cash to cover the bill before the insurer sends a check. And plenty of policies exclude exactly what you'll need most. That said, a good plan can protect you from blowing up your savings if your pet needs surgery, gets cancer, or develops a chronic illness. Just make sure to read the fine print. Look for things like a 70 to 90% reimbursement rate, an annual deductible you can realistically afford, coverage for accidents and illness, not just accident only, minimal exclusions on breed, age, or pre-existing conditions, strong claim processing history, check reviews online, ask your friends. Avoid things called wellness plans disguised as insurance, ultra low premiums, and ultra high deductibles. It's not quite like health insurance. Policies that have a track record of denying basic coverage. Please do your research. Comparison shop the same way you would for human insurance. If you wouldn't trust a $19 a month health plan for yourself, don't trust one for your dog. Know what you'll spend every year. Even a healthy pet costs money. Here's a baseline to work from. Monthly expenses, food, $30 to $250, depending on size, brand, and dietary needs. If you feed your pet fancy food like Farmer's Dog, then it's definitely going to be a few $100s more. Routine vet care, $40 to $60. Grooming, maybe you don't need it, but probably at least $100 a month. Pet sitting or walking, highly variable, but about $15 to $50 a day. And then we have our annual expenses, our vaccines, flea and tick prevention, $150 to $300. Emergency fund contributions for those insurance premiums, $300 to $600. Boarding or travel care, obviously this varies wildly, but make sure you plan for it. That's about $1,200 to $2,000 a year, assuming nothing weird happens, and something always happens. So before you bring one home, ask yourself, do I want this animal or do I want to feel wanted? I hate to say it, but you will outlive that animal, and at some point, you will need money to live off when you can no longer work. There's nothing wrong with wanting companionship, but if an extra $500 to $1,000 a month on pet care means you're skipping retirement contributions or draining your own emergency fund, that's not just a trade-off, it's a financial setback that compounds. You're choosing a dog over long-term stability, and maybe you'd say, of course I'd choose my dog. That is a valid choice. Just be honest about what it costs. If you take on that kind of financial commitment, it means you may have to work harder or wait longer to hit other goals. That's not unfair, it's just how the math works. You made a choice that comes with extra responsibility, not just to the animal, but to your future self. That doesn't mean you can't ever have one. It just means the timing matters. Wanting something deeply doesn't make it the right decision today. Give it 6 months, build the emergency fund, and price out insurance. When you can afford the vet bills and your retirement contribution in the same month, you're ready, not just to adopt a pet, but to care for it. And here's my parting shot. If you're not already financially stable, a tiny tick bite and the associated vet bills can throw your whole life off track.